How's everyone doing? Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm sure everyone knows that when we all come together in coherence, that there's a synergy created, right? And we also know that it's not necessary to be in the room for this synergy to be created, right? So what we're going to do for the next 3 hours, we're opening up your workshop to a live streaming audience. And we're going to invite them to participate in this synergy. So what I'd like everyone to do is give your live stream audience a warm welcome. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Joe back to the stage.
The club is the best place to find the lovers, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table doing shots, tripping fast and we talk slow. Start up a conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance. And the man on the jukebox, and then we start to dance, and I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me. Come on now, follow my lead. I may be crazy, don't mind me. Say, boy, let's not talk too much. Grab on my waist and put that body on me. Come on now, follow my lead. Come on now, follow my lead. I'm in love with the shape of you. Push and pull.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love when an audience is as happy to be with me as I am to be with them. Thank you. Take your seats. For those of you that are streaming in from around the world, where am I supposed to look? Around the world, we are suffering down here in Mexico. Our advanced follow-ups, our advanced events, is where I love to be, because to a greater level, I get to be myself. And at the same time, I'm talking to a community of people, of doers. And when you really apply information and you personalize it, when you begin to contemplate how you're going to use it, when you begin to rehearse a new way of being, the act of doing that begins to install the circuits in your brain in preparation for the experience, yes or no? Yes. So then you primed your brain into the future. And a lot of people in this work that are advanced students then actually step into that future. And they begin to emotionally embrace it before it happens. And they begin to have new experiences. And I'm talking to a community of people that understands the truth of that philosophy to a greater measure and a greater level, because they've experienced more of that philosophy as truth. Yes or no? Yes. So that listening and the way that we can move in an advanced follow-up or an advanced workshop is fast, depending on the audience's ability to stay present and keep going. And so in the last 5 years, we have witnessed the most incredible stories of people's personal transformation. And if you asked me 5 years ago if I ever thought it would be as good as it is today, in the stories that we're getting and the measurements that we're taking and the history that we're making, all of that really is a tribute to our student body. I never thought we would see those type of changes take place. And if they're happening in a shorter amount of time, it means then that person is closer in the relationship to the unified field. Yes or no? Yes. Which means if there's a less space between 2 points of consciousness, we talked about this earlier, there's less time. Yes or no? Yes. And if you're interacting with greater levels of order and oneness and wholeness, then it should be feeling more whole and one within you and all around you. Yes or no? Yes. Which means you'd have less separation. And you wouldn't rush anywhere, you wouldn't force any outcomes, you wouldn't try to do anything. You'd feel like you already have everything. Yes or no? Yep. So then creating from a level of wholeness or oneness seems to be a quicker route than creating from the realm of duality, polarity, separation, or lack. Yes or no? Right. So then when you're living in lack, and you're living in your present personal reality and you notice certain things that you want that you don't have, the moment you notice what you don't have, you experience separation. Yes or no? Right. Whether it's the new car or the new boat or the new wardrobe or whatever it is that people do. So then the brain gets busy creating images of you in the scene, whatever that is that you want. You're naturally dreaming that future. Are you with me still? So then, some people have to work really hard, and it takes a lot of time for them to finally arrive at that vision because they're going about it matter to matter, particle to particle. Yes or no? Right. And they're experiencing their separation and lack until they get what they want. Yes or no? Right. So the more they experience time, like it's taking a longer and longer time, the more their perception of it may seem further away. Yes or no? So then they would spend their whole life forcing and controlling and manipulating and finally arriving at experience. That experience then produces the emotion that fulfills that lack until you see the next car or the next hairstyle or the next whatever. Yes or no? And so the process then of creation that takes place is based on separation and duality. Yes or no? So then if nothing ever changes in your life, you spend the rest of your life living in lack. But if you are beginning to teach your body emotionally what that future feels like, and you are literally embracing the emotions of that experience ahead of the actual experience, would you agree the more gratitude you feel, the more the emotion you feel from that experience in your waking day, the less likely you would try to force and control anything because you feel like you already have it? Yes or no? So then that would then motivate you to do it again, to get closer to that future. And now, it doesn't seem like an effort of forcing and controlling. It feels like now synchronicities and opportunities are happening around you because you've changed your energy on some level. Yes or no? Right. And so when you see the synchronicity, when you see the serendipity, when you notice the coincidence, when the door opens for you, then the moment that happens, you remember what you did to create it. Yes or no? And the moment you make the association of what's happening outside of you with what you did inside of you to create it, you just believe you're more of a creator and less of a victim to your life. Yes or no? Right. Turn the person next to you and explain. Oh my goodness gracious, here he is. So, back to my original point, was that 5 years ago, we never anticipated seeing such profound changes in people's health and in their lives. And we measured to prove that something was happening objectively during that person's subjective experience and that they weren't crazy, it was real. So real that their brain was changing as if it was in the event. And so we've measured greater levels of order and coherence in the brain. We've measured a whole lot more energy in the brain. We've measured much more heart coherence in our students over time. Some of them can sustain that state for 45 minutes to an hour, independent of what's going on in their outer world. They would never trade that feeling for anyone or anything. And that's the beginning of unconditional love, and it's becoming a skill. And we've seen genetic changes. We've seen genes upregulate that literally suppress cancer growth, right, in 4 days. That's supernatural if you ask me. That the gene that signals stem cells to become active and then migrate to damaged tissues and cells and organs and repair them, that gene is activated. That sounds like regeneration to me. The gene that actually strengthens and builds the microtubules, the cytoskeleton of the cell, where consciousness exists, that gene was activated. You got to tell me there must have been some energetic signal that caused that to happen. Would you agree? Yes. And that gene for longevity and a stronger immune system in 4 days was activated, and people's immune response was way higher. Cortisol levels went down and immunoglobulin levels went up. That's pretty supernatural. In fact, if a drug company could make that happen, it would be the most popular drug in the world. And yet, your nervous system is the greatest pharmacist in the first place. Yes or no? Yes. And of course, we've seen energy changes in the room, energy change around people's bodies, their energy centers change, oxytocin levels go up, certain neurotransmitters like melatonin be way higher by the end of the event. We saw all those things in common people. And there are people sitting amongst you that I may actually call onto the stage today that have healed themselves of cancer, and they're in my new book. And I want you to meet them so you know I'm not making it up. How does that sound? And there are people in this audience that made contact with that unified field. And we happen to capture that brain in real time. And the amount of energy in that brain was 200 standard deviations above normal in gamma. And she's sitting right here, and I want you to talk to her. And I want you to listen to her story. And you'll see that she's just like you. She just made up her mind. And as a result of it, she got a biological upgrade, and her health condition since she was 3 months old went away. In 1 day, she got a biological upgrade. She's sitting in this audience with you. People that have done a walking meditation right in this audience, walked as their future self, took a chance and opened his heart and was healed of cancer. And he saw the whole future of his in 1 second. He got the download. And it wasn't like he was visualizing it or rehearsing it. He was there. And his body responded as if it was there. And, oh, I'm better, like thinking positively. He wasn't hoping or wishing. He knew. He knew that he was better. And he's sitting in this audience, in one walking meditation, transformed his health. You hear the story, all of a sudden mirror neurons in your brain begin to become activated. And you're looking at that person, and you're hearing how simple they are and what it took to make those changes. And wow, some level you believe it's possible for you a little bit more. And you choose yourself every morning to do the work because you want to evolve. And there is another person in this audience that I talk about in my book that healed herself of cancer. And you know what? It took her years to do it. But she never missed a day of overcoming some aspect of herself. And she had every reason, every excuse, every valid point that she shouldn't get up falling in love with life. She had no reason to fall in love with life. She lost everything and was sick. But to the materialist, you would see that as foolhardy and insane. But to the quantum mind, you know that that person is teaching their body emotionally, energetically, what that future is going to be like, selecting and instructing that gene over and over again, knocking on the door. She'll tell you that it took her years to create her disease, and she understood it was going to take her some time to uncreate it. And she'll tell you that she was patient, and there were days she was so sick she didn't feel like doing the work. But guess what? She did it anyway. And she had every reason to live in fear because the doctor told her that she was stupid and was going to die. She overcame her fear every day, and it was difficult. But when her passion, the spark within her, reached a little further, and she ignited more passion, her passion became greater than her fear. That's all. And it wasn't work for her to do the work. It's the only thing she looked forward to in her life. And she missed a lot of social engagements. She missed a lot of dinners. She lost a lot of friends. She lost loved ones. But she just believed in her future more than she believed in her past. And she had a pretty shocking past. And she overcame it. And she's sitting right here in this audience. Another example of truth. And there's people in this audience who know how to do that breath, that we've measured their brain more than once. And now, he knows that he knows how to do it. He knows how to do it. And he'll tell you that there was a lot of chaos going on in his world and his life. And he used all that energy and organized it. And he understood that he could drive it, move it right back into his brain. He can do it on command and produce 300 standard deviations of gamma in his brain. He'll tell you all that creative energy in his first center is now in his head. He'll tell you that. And he looks forward to doing the breath because it's instrumental to him now. Would you agree?
Yes.
So now that he knows that he knows how to do it and the pathway is open, it gets to be kind of fun. And in the beginning, it scared the hell out of him. I watched. But now, it's becoming a skill. And he knows how to do it. And I want you, if there's time, to listen to that, because you'll see that he's just as passionate about it and nothing else matters when he does it. So if we live then in our normal waking day in three-dimensional reality as a body in space and time, and we perceive reality with our senses, would you agree then, the more you react to the things and people in your life emotionally, the more you put your attention on the cause? Remember this? Come on. But when you put your attention on the cause in three-dimensional reality, you're narrowing your focus on matter and you're taking your attention off everything else because you're in the habit of focusing on objects and people and things in space and time. Yes or no?
Right.
So then the stronger your emotional reaction to the conditions in your external world, the more you're putting your attention on your outer world and you're forgetting and paying less attention to your thoughts and feelings. Yes or no? Yes. So then, if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and you wake up in the morning and you search for a familiar feeling called you, and that feeling is connected to some memory of certain people at certain times and places in your life, you're activating circuits in your brain from the past, yes or no? Yes. Because you're associating that feeling with a memory. And brain is a record of the past, and feelings and emotions are a record of the past. All your thoughts and feelings now are in the past, yes or no? Yes. And if how you think and how you feel creates your state of being, you're starting your day with your entire state of being in the past, yes or no? Yes. And you should be predictable in your life. So then, if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and you're putting all of your attention on your emotions, then you're taking energy out of the present moment and you're investing your energy into the past. Yes or no? Yes. And now you have less energy in the present moment to design a new destiny. Yes or no? Yes. And if you wake up in the morning and you start thinking about all the people you have to see and the places you have to go and the things that you have to do in your known familiar reality, would you agree then, if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, the moment you start putting your attention on the known then, you're siphoning energy out of the present moment into the predictable future, and you're not in the present moment, and you don't have any energy to create a new day. Would you agree with me? Yes. Because all of your energy is commingled into this linear vision of time with a past, a present, and a future. Yes or no? Yes. Turn to the person next to you and explain. So, are you with me? So then, there's the present moment, and the present now exists, and most people are anticipating their future based on their past, and their attention is going back and forth, yes or no? And they're polarized, and they're living in duality. And they're missing the present moment. And if they're waking up every morning, coming back to their senses, getting in touch with the familiar feelings of unhappiness and pain and victimization and lack, and those emotions are connected to someone or something outside of them, then for the most part, then they're in their past, yes or no? Yes. And once they're in that state of being, it's very highly likely that they're going to make the same choices as they did the day before, yes or no? Yes. So then they wake up in the morning and they go through a series of unconscious automatic steps, routines in their life. And in fact, their body's on autopilot. They have the thought, and all of a sudden the program runs. So now the body is dragging that person into a predictable future based on what they did in the past. Yes or no? Yes. And we could say that they lose their free will to a program. Yes? Yes? So now the program is greater than their will, and it looks like they're on this wheel of repeated experiences in their life. And the wheel exists because as they see the same people and they go to the same places and they do the exact same thing at the exact same time, the memory of every person has a neurological network in their brain, every object, everything, every place, and it has an emotion connected to it. So they're reacting unconsciously to the people and conditions in their life. And now they're thinking and feeling equal to everything that they know. And as long as they're thinking and feeling equal to everything they know, they keep creating more of the known, yes or no? Yes. And there's a biological match, a neurological match, a genetic hormonal chemical match between the inner world of biology and the outer world of three-dimensional reality, and that's the person's identity. Are you with me still? Yes. So then, all the work we have done in laboring for the present moment, all of your efforts to be greater than those automatic attitudes and those unconscious habits and behaviors and propensities and all the emotions of agitation and frustration and impatience, every time you're working on lowering the volume to those and you begin to liberate energy, you're literally going from the realm of the somebody to the realm of the nobody. Yes or no? Because you're taking your attention off your body, and every time you settle it back down into the present moment, you're telling it it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind. Yes or no? Yes. And all of a sudden, that part of you that you're digging deeper to use, the spirit is becoming more powerful within you. Yes or no? Yes. And now your will is beginning to match a greater will. And your mind is beginning to connect to a greater mind. And you love life a little bit more. And you begin to connect to it. Are you with me still? Yes. And as you take your attention off all the people in your life and all those people in your life, you put your attention on because somehow you have an emotion that's connected to them. And so then every time you feel the emotion, you direct your attention to that person or thing. And when you're settling down and taking your attention off that person, you're no longer investing your intention and energy outside of you. And as you lower the volume to that emotion, you're breaking that energetic bond with your past, present reality. And it takes energy to separate those two. But then when you become more conscious and you use a greater level of energy, you begin to separate from your past, present reality, and you're calling more energy back into your field. Are you with me still? And you're no longer giving your power away. In fact, you're not even paying attention to that person or thing anymore, and you feel lighter and freer because you have more energy. So now you have more creative energy as a result of reinvesting your attention into the present moment. Yes or no? Yes. And if you start taking your attention off where you need to go, or the place you need to go, or the place you are, and you get beyond locality, and you go from somewhere to nowhere, you would have to agree with me, you're moving closer to the quantum field, because there's nowhere to go in the quantum field. Yes or no? And of course, if you're no longer thinking about the predictable future and the familiar past, and you're no longer feeling those emotions or thinking about the people that are connected to those emotions in your life, and you keep returning back to the present moment, and you move into that place of no time, you would have to agree then you're disinvesting your energy out of this three-dimensional reality and you're bringing it closer to the present moment, yes or no? Yes. And you're building your own energy field, and in fact, that line of time that has been your genetic destiny that we keep replaying over and over again, you're reeling in your energy out of that future, and you're pulling that linear time, predictable future back, and you're making room for the unknown in your life. Are you with me still? Yes. And every time you overcome some emotion and you work with the body and you don't think you can go any further and you go a little further, and you begin to disinvest your energy and attention out of that emotion, you're rolling up your past, yes or no? Yes. And if you're not thinking about that person, you're no longer firing and wiring those circuits in the same way, and nerve cells that no longer fire together, no longer wire together. Are you with me still? Yes. And so the act of doing that then brings more energy into the present moment, and you are now just consciousness. And if we took away all the bodies and people and objects and things and places and time, you would be left with an empty black space that in fact is the quantum field, yes or no? Yes. So then if you could linger there, aware that you're aware in that infinite space, and you didn't rush back to your memory of being a face or a skin color or a culture or a profession, but you just lingered as an awareness, would you agree then, as you linger in that place called the unknown, if you keep investing your attention and energy into the unknown, you should have new and unknown experiences in your life, yes or no? Yes. And if you keep moving closer and closer to it, and you begin to place enough attention in the now, that now gets big, now gets really long, and now you're having more time than there is particle or space. You have an infinite amount of time. And if you have an infinite amount of time, you can do a lot of things, yes? Yeah. If you have an infinite to-do list, it's only equal to your idea of things you can do, yes or no? So if you had all the time in the world to do everything, you could experience all realities, yes or no? Yes. So now you have this infinite amount of time, and that's where all possibilities exist. And as you begin to connect to it and re-experience it, and then think about it a little bit more and get a greater understanding of it. As you begin to do that over and over and over again, your interaction with it is changing you. Yes or no? Yes. So then as you experience greater and greater degrees of oneness and wholeness, you experience an infinite amount of time. Yes or no? Yes. So then you're experiencing enormous amount of time, and all possibilities exist. Then I've always said to you, imagine then that you are that consciousness in that infinite black space. And now this linear time is rolled up, and that past time has rolled up, and you are in the eternal present moment, and you have infinite possibilities that you can look down and experience equal to your knowledge base. Yes or no? Yes. So then as you begin to think about in that unified field some greater expression of yourself or some creation that you want to manifest, would it make sense then that the moment you begin to create what that future looks like, you're starting to roll out one line of time here? Yes or no? Yeah. Come on. Yeah. And as you begin to roll out that line of time, your brain gets busy creating the scenery. Yes or no? Yes. It begins to lay out an intention. So then, what makes all the energy rest in the present moment when you have that intention is the emotion that you couple with it. So then the more you feel an emotion while you're in that present moment, or better yet, an energy, a profound energy, then the moment you feel that emotion or energy, you're living in that future right in the present moment, and it's the emotion that brings you into the present moment, and your body's believing that it's there. Yes or no? Yes. So then, would you agree that the moment you have a reaction to the thought that your body is living in that future in the present, and you are in that future? Yes or no? Profound energy or profound emotion, you are beginning to anchor that energy field, that pattern into the present, and into a template or form, and that ultimately becomes your future. But you have to experience that emotion in the present moment, just like thinking about tasting the terrible dinner you're about to eat. But now, we want to do it with something that begins to enliven the nervous system, to create more energy and more passion. And when you're in that place of oneness and wholeness, you should be more free to feel it. So then, the present moment exists, and as you begin to roll out your vision of the future and you begin to emotionally embrace it, now you're directing your attention and your energy in that unknown. Yes or no? And if you keep traveling down that unknown, it becomes a new future for you that you get to walk into. So then, I want you to think about an emotion on a personal level that you might want to give up or surrender. Can you think of one? So that emotion, just one, that emotion is the past, yes or no? I want you to think about a problem or condition in your life that has not been resolved, and you would like some change or some outcome to be different. Can you think of one of those? And can you think of the emotion that you would feel when it was resolved? Yes or no? Yes. And can you think of something in your future, some creation within the realm of your acceptance, of course, that you would like to experience or create? And could you get a very clear vision of that outcome, and then with that intent completely, and to begin to get balance between that? If you over surrender, you gave up. You know what I mean, yeah? Surrender means we get very into a surrender completely to a greater mind to allow it to begin to work for us in our life. And it's no different than you are you with that I just mentioned. If you're truly in the quantum field, would you agree then there'd be nothing physical for you to experience? Yes or no? So if there's nothing physical for you to experience, then the only thing that's left is energy. Yes or no? And you can tune your nervous system into greater and greater degrees of order, greater frequencies, if you pay attention to it. Yes or no? So then if you're in the realm now where there's more energy than matter, instead of the realm where there's more matter than energy, this 3D world, if you're in that realm where there's more energy than matter, then you should be able to tap into a greater energy to be able to create with. Yes or no? Because you're moving towards the source. Yes or no? So the closer you get to source, the deeper you go into that consciousness and connect with it, and the more whole and one that you feel, and the less separate you are from it, that would mean that your thoughts and the events that you were creating would happen in a very short amount of time, because you allowed yourself to create from a greater degree of oneness and wholeness. Yes or no? Yes. So then when we do this meditation as a group, we are going to start out by opening that heart center. And I'm going to ask you, just like we did before breakfast. Was it breakfast or lunch? Who knows? Lunch? Whenever that was. Lunch. Before lunch, yeah. That I want you to just make it less mechanical. This is an advanced group. I want you to rest your attention in there. You know where to go. Once you lock your attention in there, I'm going to ask you to breathe through that center and make yourself feel safe enough to breathe and work with your body to help it to trust you into the present moment. Just work with it. Feel that emotion within you and then tune into it all around you. And I want you to tune in to the energy of love in this community. The love that we have in this community, because when we tune into that, we connect from a remote location. And I now know autonomic nervous system to move into heart coherence at a distance. And since there's no separation in the quantum field, and consciousness is non-local, the moment you do that, you connect in a non-local realm. If you're beyond your body, beyond the environment, and beyond time. Yes or no? Yes. So then tune in to the love in this community and contribute to it and receive it. We'll play a song to pull the mind out of the body. And I want you to go after it. I want you to awaken an energy in you. And I don't want you to think or analyze. I just want you to work with it. And we'll take a break. Don't worry. Take a break before we do this. And then we are going to go into that unified field. And I want you to go even deeper. There's nothing to see. It would be like you had no eyes, no ears, no nose, no mouth, no body, no feeling. You're just aware that you're in blackness. That's all I want you to do. And just keep tuning in to greater and greater degrees of wholeness and love and oneness, and pay more attention to it. And move closer and closer and closer to the unified field until you feel like you are connected to it. To the energy of love in this community. The love that we have in this community, because when we tune into that, we connect to those people that are joining us from a remote location. And I now know that when you do that, you begin to affect other people's autonomic nervous system to move into heart coherence at a distance. And since there's no separation in the quantum field, and consciousness is non-local, the moment you do that, you connect in a non-local realm. If you're beyond your body, beyond the environment, and beyond time. Yes or no? Yes. So then tune in to the love in this community and contribute to it and receive it. We'll play a song to pull the mind out of the body. And I want you to go after it. I want you to awaken an energy in you. And I don't want you to think or analyze. I just want you to work with it. And we'll take a break. Don't worry. Take a break before we do this. And then we are going to go into that unified field. And I want you to go even deeper. There's nothing to see. It would be like you had no eyes, no ears, no nose, no mouth, no body, no feeling. You're just aware that you're in blackness. That's all I want you to do. And just keep tuning in to greater and greater degrees of wholeness and love and oneness, and pay more attention to it. And move closer and closer and closer to the unified field until you feel like you are connected to it. And then when you're deep enough in there, I'm going to ask you to bring up that emotion that you wanted to release. And then when you begin to remember it, I'm going to ask you to surrender it to a greater mind completely. I want you to let it go. Open up and really let it go. And allow a greater intelligence to heal you. Just open up and receive. Can you do that? Yes. And if you do it properly, you should feel relief or freedom or joy because something greater is taking care of it for you. Yes or no? Yes. And you may even feel a little gratitude. Hint. And then I'm going to ask you to bring up that issue in your life that's standing in the way between you and moving. And you have tried everything and it hasn't worked. And you know exactly what you want to have happen, and all I want you to do is just drop the order and feel the emotion as if it already happened. And the moment you feel that emotion now, in the now, and I'll help you to remember now, and the more you feel that emotion in the now, the more you're leaving an energetic footprint in the field. Are you with me still? And you're resonating a frequency. And when you're resonating a frequency, when you do that properly, it's just like taking two tuning forks, hitting one and moving it towards the other, and the other vibrates. And then this vibration begins to influence this one, and they begin to match frequencies. So you match the frequency and surrender. You got it? And then you will call up that future experience, that intent, and I'm going to ask you to emotionally embrace how you would feel in the moment you're going to feel that emotion. And if you feel that emotion in the present moment, and you're truly in the present moment, your body's going to believe it's in the future, yes? And if the environment signals the gene, and the end product of an experience in the environment is called an emotion, you're signaling a gene ahead of the environment, and you're changing your biology. And your body is beginning to make new proteins to put you in alignment with that future, and now you're wearing your future. Are you with me still? Yes. And then, could you surrender that creation to a greater mind and give up how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, and just know that the mother-father principle, the great parent, is going to provide it for you? Could you do that? You do that? Yes. And then when we lay down, we'll allow our bodies to reorganize to a new mind. How does that sound? So then the closer you go to the unified field, the more you believe that it exists, yes or no? Yes. And does it have a mind much bigger than our mind? Yes. Can it see outcomes that our limited mind may not be able to see? Yes. If you truly give it up to it, it's happy to take it on the condition that you truly let it go. You got it? Yes. So now, I want to, before we take a break, and we're going to take a break in a few minutes here, I just want to call those people up on the stage that I talked about so that you can meet them and you can see that they're the living example of truth. How does that sound? Brett. Now, take a look at these people. They don't look much different than you, do they? Maybe a little taller than us. But these are the people that have demonstrated a supernatural ability. And it is supernatural to get so far beyond your body that you can finally heal your body. To get so beyond the memory of yourself that when you come back, you're not the same self any longer. To get beyond different feelings and different emotions that were strong emotions. I mean, that's supernatural. To finally make up their mind. To just go for it and prove to themselves that it works. That's supernatural. And they all have an amazing story. And they tell that story in just a simple and beautiful way. And I'm going to give them just 2 or 3 minutes of the short version of their story. So you know that I'm not making stuff up. How does that sound? Okay, Doc.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay. Oh, hello. So, my name's Carla. I'm a doctor from the UK, and I was getting more and more frustrated with my profession and suffered with eczema from the age of 3 months. And got into Dr. Joe's work maybe about 15, 16 months ago. Was fascinated, did all the progressive, came to the advanced in Lake Garda in January. And I was fortunate enough to be wearing the brain mapping equipment. At that time, I was really seeking alternative ways to practice the way I preferred to practice healing, and was getting more and more frustrated, and unsurprisingly my eczema was really flaring up at that time. So when I came to wear the brain mapping equipment, I was sitting there thinking, what an amazing opportunity this could be to show everyone how unlimited we all are. I was so sick of telling my patients what they could and couldn't do, and I thought, wow, what if I could? Which camera? This way. So I'm not used to this. So yes, I set a sort of a clear intention before I did the meditation that I really wanted to go beyond myself, do whatever I could do. The day before we'd been doing the breathing, and I had noticed energy moving up my body and getting stuck in my throat, and was quite scary for me, and I realized that may happen again upon this meditation. So as the meditation began, we did a mind movie meditation. I was seeing my future self that I wanted to project, and then once the meditation finished and we were supposed to lie down, I obviously couldn't lie down because I was mapped up. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just go along with this, and I had no expectation. I just thought, I'm just going to sit here and see where it takes me. And within a fairly short period of time, I just kept focusing on connection and love and opening up and breaking through no matter what, of showing what we're all capable of doing. And I experienced at some point a huge release in my brain and an instant connection with a beautiful intelligence and just this amazing sense of oneness and joy that I've never experienced in my entire life. And I was kind of feeling all this energy being stuck here, and when it was suddenly released, it was incredibly powerful and profound, and I was aware I was making strange noises and that I was interfering with other people's meditations. So all these things were going on in my mind, and I could also hear the brain mapping team behind me making lots of noises. And I kept thinking, just focus on this. This is too good. Just ignore what they're saying. Ignore you're making weird noises. And I could hear them saying seizure and all sorts of panicked noises.
She's a doctor too.
Right. So I've seen seizures, and I kind of thought, wow. At that point, I was like, I don't care. I'm going with this. This is amazing. If this is what a seizure is like, I am just going to stay with this emotion.
I got back there in time and said, quiet, she's not having a seizure.
So yeah, I just stayed in this amazing moment, this connection, this real sense of humor, this oneness, and a real exchange of coming home. It was just like coming home, and so familiar and beautiful. And after the meditation finished, I felt so much lighter, quite spaced, and I knew something had changed. But to be honest, at the time, I was just so in love with life and the present moment. I wasn't even thinking about my eczema. It didn't occur to me that I hadn't really scratched or anything like that. It wasn't until I connected with Daniela and we were talking, and we were just talking on text at the end of the event, and I sent her some photos because I'd sent some a few days before. I'd taken some a few days before the event because it really flared up. So I just suddenly realised, wait a minute, I don't have any rashes anymore. They've completely gone. And so I sent her some messages, and then obviously she told Dr. Joe about it. And yeah, it was just a side effect of just going on beyond myself, just trying to, getting beyond my own suffering and trying to be an example of truth. So it was a real gift, and I realise now that if I hadn't had all that frustration, if I hadn't had, my eczema, I would never have taken it that far and had that will to do it. So I used that pain point to really push beyond. So I'm very grateful for that.
Now, when we mapped Carla's brain, I was trying to get to the new scientific team to explain to them what could possibly happen during the event, but we just kept missing each other because of our schedules. And then after like the third attempt, I said, the hell with it, let them just have their experience, So Carla popped back there, and I ran back there and said, come on, be quiet, this is a moment. But her brain gamma patterns were 200 standard deviations outside of normal, and the beauty behind this, she passed right through high beta, went right through that arousal state, right into gamma, and we started seeing the same trend with a lot of people. Now, the arousal that was taking place from her experience was not coming from some predator in the outer world. Remember we talked about this early this morning? Come on. Yes. The brain goes into high beta when you're under the fight or flight response. But when the arousal is coming from the sympathetic nervous system, same nervous system from within, and that energy starts to travel back to the brain, we saw her whole limbic brain on fire. We saw the areas surrounding the pineal gland activated. Not only was the pineal gland stimulated and releasing its chemicals, but at the same time, there was an area around it that is associated with profoundly joyful experiences that become long-term memories. And I knew that she was having a very profound moment. And it was a joyful sense of humor thing. So when we started seeing that with her, we started seeing the same patterns taking place with a lot of our students. And now we know how to predict when it's going to happen. And all she did was just say, I'm just going to be the example. And in her mind movie, by the way, she had herself standing on the stage telling her story. So
hello everybody, my name is Anouk. I'm from the Netherlands, and my story starts 10 years ago with the suicide of my husband. He killed himself in jumping off a building in Amsterdam. And the years after that, I lived in a lot of emotional and mental and physical stress. And I was not aware of that I was living in a high beta stress response and that my nervous system was on all the time.
Tell them what you do for a living.
I am a psychologist and a psychotherapist. Yes. If something like this hits you, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I had no tools. I had nothing actually to hold on to. But what happened is that 1.5 years later, I actually went on as if nothing had happened. But in the meantime, I was living in an emotional stress. And when I came to a point that I couldn't anymore, I couldn't walk also anymore. I ended up in the hospital. One day I went to my work, and then I sat at a table with colleagues, and I was in a talk, and it's very fast growing, and the chances that you survive this are not so high. But of course, we have kind of autoimmune reaction, and they start treating me because they didn't look for the cause. I didn't know at that time that it was the emotional stress also, and the grief and the anger and everything surviving after this death. So I took the treatment, of course, because I was paralyzed and I didn't want to be paralyzed. So they told me that taking this high dexamethasone doses will increase my walking abilities. And it did till a certain point. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. I also attracted hospital bacteria. So then I had to be treated with antibiotics also. And in the year after the hospitalization, that was in 2008, I got all kinds of ulcers. I got ulcers in my mouth, I got ulcers in my esophagus, I got ulcers in my vagina and in my anus. And I didn't know that it was because of the dexamethasone, and of course still living in high stress, because the treatment even gave me more stress, and my physical body started totally falling apart. And till the point that a year after that, I developed esophagus cancer. And that was, of course, when they gave me that diagnosis, it was like, whoa, and they also said, it's very fast growing, and the chances that you survive this are not so high. But of course, we have 2 options. But for you have to start with chemo, because we can't operate immediately. That is the protocol. They first see how you develop after chemo. So I did my first chemo, and I ended up with a heart attack, actually, almost, because my heart rate went up to 200. I couldn't breathe. It started also fibrillating, and I said, take this out. I don't want this stuff anymore. And I really made a choice in that moment to take the chemo out of my body, because I felt if I continue this, I die. And before that, I want to die, so I wanted to do so many things. And I went home. I really took a firm decision there not to go with these treatments anymore. And I went home, and I started falling apart, of course, because the doctors called me naive, and what Joe said, stupid. You're stupid and naive. And yeah, maybe that was what I was. But I felt, if I'm naive, okay, then better this way than your way, because I had 3 kids and they had no father, so I wanted to do something for them. And then a very nice friend, also a psychotherapist and clinical psychologist, who was already a little further than I at that time, she introduced me, and she gave me a free ticket to a workshop from Dr. Joe, who, yes, I'm still very thankful. And she said, you have to come to this lecture, see if you can manage it. And if you manage it, you can also stay the whole weekend if you want. And that's what I did. And that's where the change started. And this was in February 2011. So then it took me a while. It was for me not instantly. I mean, it was really what Joe said. For me, it was hard work, especially to fight against every emotion that would come up. And for me, that would be the fear. Fear, the doubt. Can I make this? Is this really helping? Can this work? But I felt after the first weekend, I felt such a shift in my energy that I thought, I want more of this. So what I did, I went to all the workshops that year there where Joe was. I said, okay, I have nothing to lose. I lost already so much. So I went going there and going there and going there. And in 2012, in May, I went to New York with the same friend that introduced me to Dr. Joe's work. And there I had a very profound shift. And what maybe some people now can do instantly, I can do now also instantly. I can just shift and go there, but at that time it took me all these years to come there. And from that moment onwards, it started changing. My vitality came back, the ulcers in my mouth went.
He made me a checkup.
I got the diagnosis after the gastroscopy that I was free of at least cancer here. And I had to still go on, and I did. And let me tell you that just before I came here, I had a full total checkup. And they were amazed about what they saw and how I am, and I'm not one of their statistics.
Excuse me.
Avi, if you want to do it in Spanish, you can do it in English? You
Yes,
okay? Okay.
I want to try.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm Javier. I'm from Mexico City. At the end of 2015, I was in New York with my wife and my 2 kids, and I was to the WC as always in the morning. But the first time in my life that I saw blood in the water, and of course I was a little bit scared. And I told to my wife and explained, and she said, "Don't worry, maybe it's something simple." I tried to forget and enjoy the vacation with my family. Then when I came back to Mexico City, I called my doctor. I saw my doctor. He made me a checkup. He suggested a colonoscopy. And after the colonoscopy, my wife and the doctor was waiting for me in the consultory, and the doctor said that this is not a very good news. I had cancer in my colon, and I started with my meditation. Of course, it was Saturday. I started on Sunday, but the first time in my life, I said, I hope that I'm doing okay, well. No? But after that, I started to make my meditation every day, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times per day, because I started to feel something different. It was July, August, September, October, and I had the opportunity to go to Cancun Advanced Workshop. And I remember that I was in the walking meditation because before that, it's important to explain you that my doctor, after the 10 chemo, he said, "You have something inside that I don't like." And after the 12th chemo, I want to have another scan. If the cancer is still there, you're going to receive another 6 chemos, and say, I don't accept it. I don't accept it, and I have to do something more higher. And I remember in the event, the doctor Dispensa said at the beginning, and starts to talk about histories like us. And I say, I want to be one person that changed the life during the meditation. And of course, I put all my intention on that event. And in the walking meditation, as you know, one part is with the eyes closed and one part is with the eyes open. When the eyes close, I start to see all the things that happen the day that I go to the scan. And I saw perfect the way that I go in, all the devices there. When I finished the scan, I saw my doctor in the right place, in the right, I don't know, a monitor. He stand up and say, "Javier, you are okay, don't worry." He hugged me. Then I saw another doctor that attended me in consultory. I go in, the doctor was not there. The doctor appears, my wife is on my left. The doctors appear and with a file in his hand. He said with a smile, "You are okay?" He hugged me. And then another doctor, the same, but it was like a movie, incredible. And then when you said, when in the meditation, when they say, give thanks because it's already happened, I felt something amazing in my body. I opened my eyes, I started to cry, as always in my life. And I remember that I called my wife and said, "I know now that I'm okay. I'm completely okay." And I explained all the movie, the whole movie, and say, "Please remember very well because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It has to happen." And the day arrived, and it can happen exactly the same. She was amazed, and of course, when I start to see the first thing. When I go out to the scan and saw my doctor in the monitor in the right, and he stand up and say, "Javier, come, your liver is perfect," and hug me, and I say it's going to happen. That's my history, and I want to share with you, thanks to Dr. Dispenza, and as the last time I explained to all of you, it's not so difficult. It's just do it. We just have to do it. Our work. It's very easy to dedicate some time to our meditation every day. I didn't stop. I do it every single day of my life, and I'm gonna do it the rest of my life.
Hi everybody. My name's Brett. I'm from Australia, if you hadn't noticed. I guess I'm here to talk about the breath. Okay, the dreaded breath. Who does the breath, by the way? Yeah? Who's popped? Yeah? Okay. So it was Sunshine Coast last year. I can't remember the month because time's just all over the place in my mind. And it was the last day we were doing the breath, and through the whole week I'd had these moments where, I was getting really lightheaded and I felt this edge of something. I couldn't even describe what it was. And we were talking about overcoming our body, and I'm not like these guys. I haven't cured myself of sickness or anything like that. I've had a bit of pain from sports. I deal with the thoughts and feelings that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I remember sitting in the meditation and wanting to move, and my body was raging, and all I wanted to do was get beyond that. And so I was sitting next to you, I remember, and And I pulled out of the meditation. I couldn't do it. I had too much pain in my hips. And then a minute later, Joe calls us out of the meditation. And Monique says, yes, I did it. I got to the end. And I was like, damn it. You know, I didn't make it. So I said, all right, buddy, we're not having lunch today. And we're going to sit down and we're going to do this. We're going to get through it. And so I kept going for this edge with the breath. And then on the last day, I just sort of let go, and I thought, what the hell, you know, today's a good day to die. Let's see what's on the other side. And
Death from the breath.
And I remember I had the heart math on, so I was sitting at the front. Luckily, I was sitting at the front because there was space in front of me, and I was in the chair, and I'm moving the energy up, and I'm starting to feel really good. It's starting to get euphoric, and I'm like, this is great, and it kept going, and then all of a sudden, there was this flash of light. I lost all awareness of my body, time, space, everything. I don't know where I was, who I was, when I was. And the next thing I know, I've got this soreness on my face. I'm like, what is this? And then my hands are up here. And I'm on the ground. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I fell out of the chair. And it scared me, but at the same time, it was like, whoa, what's going on here? I'm curious, really curious. And, you know, my background's in martial arts, so I've been hit a lot, and I've been on the mat a lot. And so I kept going with it, and I noticed, I don't know if anyone else has had this, but I had a lot of pain in my neck. Moving the energy up would get stuck. So what I would do is when I got out of the workshop and I went home, I would practice the breath gently, you know, for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever. And that was my type of meditation. And soon enough, the energy started to clear, and then I could start to really push the energy up faster. And I don't know how many times I've ended up on the floor now. Now I go on the floor, I start on the floor, because if I fall, you know, you don't have far to fall.
Don't worry, I always point to you. I point to the staff and I go, watch, here he goes.
Yeah, I think some of them call me chalk outline now because I end up on the ground, shaking, tongue hanging out.
But would you agree, though, that now you kind of know how to do it?
Oh, yeah.
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 Oh, yeah. So that's not like he's making it up. You understand that the measurements that we've gotten on his brain more than once is in that same high gamma brainwave pattern as Dr. Carla and many other students we've seen. As a matter of fact, when I was writing my book, I didn't know which one to choose from. There was just so many. And we now know, because we've seen it enough times, like in Brett's brain, there's a lot of energy in his brain. All that creative energy that we use to make a baby is now in his brain. That's a lot of energy. So the brain goes into high gamma, the autonomic nervous system is activated, it's aroused, and it's drawing energy from the body to the brain. And not only is he producing an enormous amount of energy, but at the same time, his brain is in super coherence, which means, like, normal coherence is like everybody clapping at the same time, every fifth person clapping at the same time. That's normal coherence in the brain. Hypercoherence is everybody clapping at the same time. There's just more communication going on. So in a global sense, his whole brain becomes highly synchronized. So we know it creates a lot of energy in the brain. We know it causes the brain to become more coherent. And when we're more coherent, our brain's more coherent. And when our brain's more coherent, we're more coherent. Does that make sense? So he now knows how to do it. And his last measurement was a little more energy in his brain. So when the nervous system has to process a fast frequency like that, not all the time, but a lot of times it's such a strong frequency that there is a lot of energy that strikes the brain at once. It's happened to me. You don't have to pass out. You know, it's not something that you should try to do. But I never said you have to do it hard. I always say a very slow, steady breath, yes? But it's the contraction of those muscles coupled with the breath and the intent to pull that energy to your brain with a certain level of passion. You're arousing the body in that way. And when the body begins to become aroused, it releases energy back to the brain. Does that make sense? So I've seen him do it, and he knows how to do it. And we have many people now that can do it as well. But it's pretty cool to see that that's the effects of what you're doing. And if you keep doing it, and you understand that every one of these people made a decision, would you agree? With such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision caused their body to respond to a new mind. And many of them experienced that future in the present moment over and over again. Either one big moment where they felt such a profound energy that they were experiencing that future and they emotionally felt the outcome. Yes or no? And it was happening when? Now, where all possibilities exist. And the emotion grounded them in the moment and created a long-term memory. And the stronger the emotion, the stronger the long-term memory. Are you with me still? But the memory is not coming from something outside of them, like a betrayal or a shock or a crisis. The memory is coming from the body, and it's being coupled with whatever the brain is processing. The brain is processing that energy as a stream of consciousness, and you're getting images and pictures or information. So now he's having way more different experiences that have to do with time and the alteration of time. He's having way more interaction with those fractal patterns and that divine geometry because pineal gland is way more active because it's continuously being stimulated through the autonomic nervous system as the energy makes its way into the brain. Are you with me still? And you can see then that he wants more of it. He's not saying, well, I'm going to hold back, because every experience becomes a little bit different. How many people understand? So did you learn from these beautiful people? Thank you. Take your seats. So now, I'd like to take over and over again, either one big moment where they felt such a profound energy that they were experiencing that future and they emotionally felt the outcome. Yes or no? And it was happening when? Now, where all possibilities exist. And the emotion grounded them in the moment and created a long-term memory. And the stronger the emotion, the stronger the long-term memory. Are you with me still? But the memory is not coming from something outside of them, like a betrayal or a shock or a crisis. The memory is coming from the body, and it's being coupled with whatever the brain is processing. The brain is processing that energy as a stream of consciousness, and you're getting images and pictures or information. So now he's having way more different experiences that have to do with time and the alteration of time. He's having way more interaction with those fractal patterns and that divine geometry because pineal gland is way more active because it's continuously being stimulated through the autonomic nervous system as the energy makes its way into the brain. Are you with me still? And you can see then that he wants more of it. He's not saying, well, I'm going to hold back, because every experience becomes a little bit different. How many people understand? So did you learn from these beautiful people? Thank you. Take your seats. So now, I'd like to take a 23-minute break and 9.5 seconds. Come back at in 23 minutes, and we'll go right into that meditation, okay?
Yep.